start? الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with al-wasiyya al-waladiyya للإمام الباجي رحمه الله, and continuing where we stopped in the second part of the wasiyya, which deals with their relationship, meaning his two sons towards one another, and basically dealing with others, different types of people in the society and more, inshallah. So just to continue, and assuming, inshallah, that everything that is mentioned before is understood. And when it comes to studying the Deen, we are in need of al-ijmal wa tafsil. This is needed when we're studying the Deen. Al-ijmal is to study things in general. So you cover many subjects in in a general way, to comprehend, to have an idea for the overall subjects that we need to study, and then to go into details. And this is the details, it's every day in our life. So both are needed, and that's why not to think that we're just going fast, and why can't we just take the matter with ease and to take so long to do it. Mashallah, this is good also, but it's very important to go through things in general, and then it's our life, it's our responsibility when it comes to seeking knowledge. This is the subject of knowledge, is to have the patience to study all these details one day after the other, and to occupy our time with seeking the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. So he says here to his both sons, ثُمَّ الْجَارِ, after talking about صِلَةُ الْأَرْحَامِ, the relatives, the kin and kith, then he said ثُمَّ الْجَارِ, then the neighbor. عليكم بحفظه, عليكما بحفظه. Al-jar is the neighbor, and there is definition for who is al-jar, which is basically the one that lives attached to you, or the one next and the one next, and it all depends on the urf or the norm. That's why some of the ulama, they define it by the 40 houses from all directions. There's no evidence to that necessarily, but it's just a way to make it close to our understanding what is the norm of what is the neighbor is. People think that the neighbor is your immediate neighbor. No, it's like when you say the neighborhood, these are your neighbors in your neighborhood. So, and of course, the closer has more rights than the one that is further away. ثُمَّ الْجَارْ عَلَيْكُمَا بِحِفْظِهِ. So guard the rights, preserve the rights of the jar, because as he's going to mention some of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, وَالْكَفِّ عَنْ أَذَى, two things, to abstain from harming the jar, the neighbor, and to fulfill and to preserve the right. So actions to be done, things to abstain from. وَالسَّتْرِ لِعَوْرَتِهِ, and to hide, to conceal his shortcomings, because the jar is very easy to see what the shortcomings of his neighbor. At least he sees him coming, leaving in the early morning, coming very late, carrying things, things like this, to conceal the shortcomings, and therefore not to speak about it. وَالْإِهْدَاءِ إِلَيْهِ, and to give him gifts. وَالصَّبْرِ عَلَى مَا كَانَ مِنْهُ, and to be patient with whatever you receive from him or come from him. If a neighbor harms his neighbor, it is the right of the one that is harmful. His right is to be patient with him. This is his right. So if a neighbor harms another, his right is that you're patient. Of course, people will take advantage of one another like this. No. It's again like Silat al-Rahim. You are commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be patient with your neighbor, regardless how the neighbor is. And mukafa'at, this is, as we said, this is not how the relationships of a Muslim based on al-mukafa'at. Al-mukafa'at and mu'awadat, rewarding one another. This is not what al-akhlaq and dealing with others is based upon that, but rather it's based upon the command of Allah. So if someone is nice, we're nice to him, this is obvious. This is everybody who does this. But what if they are not? What if they're harmful? Is to be patient. And of course, to push away the harm, definitely. A person, is not to be blamed if he asks for justice or if he protects his rights. No harm, no problem with this whatsoever. And of course, to push away the harm. He says, فَقَدْ رُوِيَ عَنِ النَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم أنه قال لا يؤمن من لم يأمن جاره بوائقه. He's not a believer. That means he does not complete his iman, his faith, whose neighbor من لا يأمن جاره. His jar is not safe from his بوائقه. That means from his harm. البوائق جمع بائقة. This is any harm, any small or major thing. The fact here that if the neighbor is not safe from your harm, you did not harm him yet, but you have to make him feel safe from you being his neighbor. He's safe from you. He's not worried, what is this neighbor is going to do or might do to me. This is the level of safety that he has to feel, and that comes with actions, of course. Kindness, smiling, saying salam, whatever means. وروي عنه أنه قال ما زال جبريل يوصيني بالجار حتى ظننت أنه سيورثه. Jibril kept on يوصيني, continuing advising me concerning the neighbor till I thought that the neighbor will have a share in the inheritance. To that extent of the wasiyah, the advice of Jibril. And one of the very simple things can be done, at least to get the message across: I'm there for you. If you need help, I'm your neighbor. I'm more closer to you than even your relatives. If you need anything, call for help from, I'll be there for you. Things of that nature, so that they would feel that they are, as the hadith to be applied. Then he says, وَعْلَمَ أَنَّ الْجِوَارَ قَرَابَةٌ وَنَسَبٌ فَتَحَبَّبَا إِلَى جِيرَانِكُمَا كَمَا تَتَحَبَّبَانِ إِلَى أَقَارِبِكُمَا. Know that al-jiwar, to be a neighbor, to be close to someone physically, is qarabatun wa nasab. Al-qaraba is like the relatives are called qarib, but it refers to the closeness. Wa nasab is lineage, so it's like lineage. Fatahabbaba. At-tahabbub is not just to love your neighbors, but to show your love, to do acts of showing your love to your neighbors. And as if there are neighbors, it doesn't matter whether they are Muslims, disbelievers, it doesn't matter. فَتَحَبَّبَ إِلَى جِيرَانِكُمَا كَمَّا تَتَحَبَّبَانِ إِلَى أَقَارِبِكُمَا. The same way that you would show that love and concern to your relatives. إِرْعَيَا حُقُوقَهُمْ, to fulfill their rights فِي مَشْهَدِهِمْ وَمَغِيبِهِمْ, while they're present and while they're absent, which is another thing. If they're absent, as if they are present. Why? Because the neighbors are taking care of their property, whatever they need, and so on. وأحسن إلى فقيرهم, and be extra kind with إحسان to their poor. وبالغ في حفظ غيبهم. وبالغ mean be do مبالغة, which is to do excessiveness of guarding or safeguarding their privacy and what's hidden from them. وَعَلِّمَ جَاهِلَهُمْ, and teach the ignorant ones among them. So this is with regards to the al-jar and the other etiquettes and ahkam to be observed from the Sharia. This is just brief. Then he said, ثُمَّ مَنْ عَلِمْتُمَا مِنْ إِخْوَانِ وَأَهْلِ مَوَدَّتِي فَإِنَّهُ يَتَعَيَّنُ عَلَيْكُمَا مُرَاعَاتُهُمْ وَتَعْظِيمُهُمْ وَبِرُّهُمْ وَإِكْرَامُهُمْ وَمُوَاصَلَتُهُمْ. He's saying to his sons, those who you know from my brothers, my أهل مودتي, the people that I cared for, the people that I loved, brothers, relatives, friends. So this is more than just the relatives. The friends, those who their father cared for and loved. فإنه يتعين عليكم. It's mandatory upon you, مراعاتهم, to observe their rights, تعظيمهم, to respect them, to be kind and righteous towards them, to be generous, إكرامهم, ومواصلتهم, like your relatives. You connect that relationship. So to the friends of the father, and the same thing to the mother. Why? فقد روي عن عبد الله بن عمر أنه حدث عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال إن أبر البر أن يصل الرجل أهل ود أبيه. One of the أبر البر. البر is righteousness. أبر البر is the most act or the best act of righteousness. That the man would أن يصل that he would maintain the ties of relationship of the Ahl Wudd Abi, those who their father loved and cared for. So the friends and so on. The same thing with Abi and his mother also. And in some of the narrations, بعد أن يولي, after the father dies or passes away, because that's even more sincerity in it, not just when they're alive. So this is a matter of deen. This is part of the deen. And that's why if someone knows the friends of their parents and even their sons and daughters, and you have means of communicating with them, do so. Why? Just because they were, when the parents were alive, they used to be in relationship with them, friendship and so on. Then ثم إخوانكما عاملهم بالإخلاص والإكرام وقضاء الحقوق. Then your brothers, عاملهم, deal with them with sincerity, your brothers in faith, in Islam, with sincerity, with purity of intentions, الإكرام, generosity, قضاء الحقوق, to fulfill the rights, والتجافي عن الذنوب, and to stay away from the dhunub or the sins. That means to overlook their shortcomings, والكتمان للأسرار, and to conceal their secrets. And this is part of the rights, and that's different than giving nasiha and enjoining good and forbidding evil and staying away from them while they're committing sins, but at the same time not to expose them to others and to overlook the things that is not sinful, but to overlook things even if it's kind of your rights with one another, because the relationship to continue to be strong. وَإِيَّاكُمَا, now he's warning them with regards to this, أن تحدث أنفسكما أن تنتظر مقارضة ممن أحسنتما إليه. So be warned from even to تحدث أنفسكما, that you would allow yourself to whisper to yourself. حديث النفس is when you speak to yourself. You're self-conscious or speaking to yourself, which is not actions yet. That you would wait for any return for the one that you were kind to. So if you're doing acts of kindness, do not even have it as a whisper in your heart and your nafs that you would wait for something from them. You just do it as a one-way ihsan, one way of goodness. You're not waiting for anything in return. وأنعمتما عليه, and you did a favor to them. فإن انتظار المقارضة يمسح الصنيعة. Just the fact that you would wait for المقارضة from القرض, as if they have a debt now on you because you did a favor, so you're waiting for them to return the favor. Never even to whisper to yourself that you are waiting for anything. Just having that in the heart, he says يمسح الصنيعة. It wipes the صنيعة, the action that you did of generosity. ويعيد الأفعال الرفيعة وضيعة, and returns the high level of actions to make it the lowest. Instead of having did something of generosity, kindness, of goodness, it becomes the lowest of actions. ويقلب الشكر ذما, and it makes the shukr or the gratefulness to transform it, to make it upside down, to make it them, which is the opposite, into blame. ويقلب الشكر ذما والحمد مقتا, and the praise becomes resentment or hatred. Yeah, and these are not just some beautiful words that he's putting together. This is, again, to show the hearts has to be in that state of nasiha and purity and ikhlas, and knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees the hearts. And this is how the person's actions and guidance in this life and hereafter, at-tawfiq, to be guided, to be steadfast upon the deen of Allah, to gain the greatest of rewards, is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeing in the hearts this level of goodness in it. And that's part of al-munasaha or al-nasiha that they used to give the pledge of al-Islam to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam on this. وَالنُّصْحِ لِكُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. Not what we distorted it. And that's one of the things is وَالنُّصْحِ لِكُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ, advising every Muslim. It doesn't mean this. It means the heart are pure to every Muslim. Concern even the people of al-bid'ah and innovations and dalalat. You have concern, how can they be guided by the will of Allah? How can you advise them to be guided? And if not, how to warn against them, as we mentioned before, so that even their sins are not too much. Because if less people would listen to them, they come in the day of judgment with less sins. And also to save others from falling into their traps. So this is to everyone, having this matter of a nasiha and the goodness inside. So this is with regards to the generosity. And whoever is not upon this is not generosity. Generosity is not just to give. It's to give and what comes with it, and what comes in the heart as a result of giving. And the shaitan has his ways to corrupt things. He says, then وَلَا يَجِبُ أَن تَعْتَقِدَ مُعَادَاةَ أَحَدٍ وَاعْتَمِدَ التَّحَرُّزَ مِنْ كُلِّ أَحَدٍ. This is mandatory upon you, that you don't believe that you have to have enmity towards anyone. So the issue of enmity is a very difficult thing. Don't allow yourself to be at ease, to have enmity towards anyone, unless it's something that is without any doubt that this is enmity. وَاعْتَمِدَ التَّحَرُّزَ مِنْ كُلِّ أَحَدٍ. And that means اعتمد, rely upon, but here establish things. Adopt caution with everyone. Be cautious. This is a good thing. But that's different between being cautious from people versus that you have bad thinking towards them. So have taharruz. فَمَنْ قَصَدَكُمَا بِمُطَالَبَةٍ. The strangers. مَنْ قَصَدَكُمَا بِمُطَالَبَةٍ. Whoever seek from you something that they want, مطالبة يطلب منك شيئا. They want something from you. أو تكرر عليكما بأذية. Or he repeated his harm to you. فَلَا تُقَارِضَاهُ جَهْدَكُمَا. Do the best you can. جَهْدَكُمَا. Strive so much that you don't retaliate back. That you don't, if you're able to forgive, if you're able to overlook, and there's no harm as a result of that, this is what you need to be upon. وَالْتَزِمَ الصَّبْرَ لَهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمَا. And hold yourself with sabr, with patience to the best of your ability. فَمَا الْتَزَمَ أَحَدٌ الصَّبْرَ وَالْحِلْمَ إِلَّا عَزَّ وَنُصِرْ. Which is the meaning of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. There's no one that iltazam, was upon patience and forbearance. Forgive me, Allah. May Allah make it easy. No one would make himself upon sabr, patience and forbearance, unless he azza, he become honored and helped. And this is opposite to what people think. And this is ما تواضع عبد لله إلا رفع. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, there's no abd that humbled himself to Allah unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated him. Then he said, وقد استعملت هذا بفضل الله مرارا فحمدت العاقبة واختبطت بالكف عن المقارضة. This is deen, and then the experience. He says, وقد استعملت هذا. I experienced this. I practiced this by the bounty of Allah many times. فحمدت العاقبة. I was so pleased, praiseworthy the outcome. The end was a beautiful one. واختبطت from الغبطة. I was happy when I stayed away from المقارضة, retaliation. This is the best thing. A person becomes at ease with his own self, and the outcome for the long run, this is what is best for the person. Then ولا تستعظم من حوادث الأيام شيئا. The book, of course, and the words are, mashallah, needs so much details, but لا تستعظم. Do not magnify the حوادث الأيام, the event of the days, anything. Do not make things bigger than what it is. Do not make anything big. Put things in the right perspective. And this is the lack of knowledge and the lack of understanding these things makes a person terrified from the smallest thing. And that's why you listen and you hear in the news something, or that's it. لا تستعظم من حوادث الأيام شيئا. Do not make تعظيم of it. Do not amplify it. فكل أمر ينقرض. Every matter will vanish. Every matter, big or small, will go away. ينقرض حقير is belittled. وكل كبير لا يدوم صغير. And every major matter does not continue, and it will be something small. وكل أمر ينقضي. So كل كبير لا يدوم. This is how to read actually. There is with the علامات. When you say فكل أمر ينقرض حقير. Every matter that goes away is belittled and it's insignificant. كل كبير لا يدوم. Every matter that is big, if it's not forever, صغير, it's small. If it's not forever, that means it's small. وكل أمر ينقضي. And every matter that goes away is قصير, is short. So why you have to make it big? The things that are huge is the thing that stays forever. That's why the real musibah, the real calamity is the calamity in the deen. وانتظر الفرج, and wait for the ease. Waiting for the ease is ibadah, is an act of worship. When things are tight, when things are difficult, and you're waiting for the ease, this is ibadah. وانتظر الفرج فإن انتظار الفرج عبادة, because this is ibadah, this is an act of worship. And while a person is waiting for the ease, he's making dua, he's making ibadah, he's turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As one of the early generations of Islam, he went to more than one, Bishr al-Hafi, and he asked him, I have difficulties, debt, and this and that, what do I do? He said to him, عليك بجوف الليل. You know, the midst of the night, get up and pray and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, I went to Abu Abdullah, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah. He said, I asked him the same question. He says, عليك بجوف الليل. Do the same thing. Be in the last part of the night, the midst of the night, get up and make dua and make your salah and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says he was surprised that they all gave the same answer when they did not communicate with one another. Because this is how things are. So the matter is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So while waiting for the ease, to be busy with the dua, especially when there's no means a person can take. This is sometimes the best state of the heart. When you have means, the heart sometimes get attached to the means. You think this is the way to do this. But when there's no means, then this is the perfect state of the heart. And that's why when there are means, the person has to not to think about the means. You take the means, but you don't think about it. You don't have the hearts attached to it. Otherwise, the dua becomes weak. So that's why to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fully and with ibadah and with waiting for the ease from Allah. وَعَلِّقَ رَجَاءَكُمَا بِرَبِّكُمَا. Make your raja, your hope, attached to your Lord. وَتَوَكَّلَ عَلَيْهِ, and rely upon Him. فَإِنَّ التَّوَكُّلَ عَلَيْهِ سَعَادَةٌ. Relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happiness. And other than that, or weakness in the tawakkul is the opposite, is misery, is concerns, is stresses, all kinds of things. So التوكل على الله. واستعين بالدعاء, and seek help, both of you, with الدعاء. والجأ إليه في البأساء والضراء. Turn to الدعاء as refuge for you at times of hardship and distress. فإن الدعاء سفينة لا تعطب. Dua is a ship that never broke, never sink. وحزب لا يغلب, party that never is defeated. This is a dua, سلاح المؤمن. The arm of the believer is a dua. The strongest arm for the believer is the dua. وجند لا يهرب, and soldiers that never run away. وإياكما أن تستحيل عن هذا المذهب, and be warned against أن تستحيل, that you would turn away. الاستحالة is when it's impossible, that you would turn away from this madhab, from this tariqah, from this way. أو تعتقد غيره, or that you would believe otherwise. And every time these types of things are mentioned, sometimes people would say, but this and that. Don't even put the word but there or lakin or whatever. Just keep it the way it is. When a person take the means fully. But when it comes to the ibadah, to Allah, to the dua, this is the mean. This is the way that a person has to be attached to. أو تتعلق بسواه. Be warned against even attached to other than this, the dua. فتهلك وتخسر الدين والدنيا. You will be perished, destroyed, and you would be in loss of the deen and the dunya. And he says, وَرُبَّمَا دَعَوْتُمَا فِي شَيْءٍ فَنَالَكُمَا مَعَ الدُّعَاءِ مَعَرَّةً. Maybe that you might make a dua about a matter, but then as a result, or after you make the dua, ma'arra, or difficulty or shame might happen to you. أو وصلت إليكما مضرة, harm might reaches you after you made dua. فازداد حرصا على الدعاء. So what is your reaction? Increase more and more of your dua. ورغبة, and zeal for الإخلاص, to be sincere. والتضرع والبكاء. تضرع is the intense dua, and البكاء and weeping. فإن ما نالكما من المضرة بما سلف من ذنوبكما. Because what happened to you from harm, it's because of your past sins. وَاكْتَسَبْتُمَاهُ مِنْ سَيِّئِ أَعْمَالِكُمَا, and what you earned from the evil of your actions. وَمَعَ ذَلِكَ, and with that, فَالَّذِي أَلْهَمَكُمَا إِلَى الدُّعَاء, with that, the one that inspired you and guided you to make dua, وَوَفَّقَكُمَا التَّوْفِيقِ لِلدُّعَاء, just the fact that a person, Allah guided him to make dua. This is such a great level that a person should witness that. So if you're guided to make dua, لابد أن يحسن العاقبة لكما. لابد. It has to happen that the end will be perfect for you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised never to be broken. So وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. So when people out of ignorance, if they think I made dua and then something bad happens, you're making dua, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you. Whether whatever you asked for, it happens as you asked, or it's delayed for you for a reason and you get the reward much more, or reward instead of it, or harm is pushed away from, as the hadith of the Prophet he said. But the fact is, as Umar radiallahu anhu he said, إِنِّي لَا أَحْمِلُ هَمَّ الْإِجَابَةِ وَإِنَّمَا أَحْمِلُ هَمَّ الدُّعَاءِ. I'm not concerned about the acceptance or the reply of the dua, not the acceptance, al-qabul, al-ijaba. I'm not concerned about the acceptance or the return of the dua, but I'm concerned about dua itself. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised, if you make dua, your dua is accepted. Of course, with the conditions to be fulfilled. And how many times people, they are deprived from it. The hearts are sealed away from the dua. So just that a person is guided to make dua, this is a great ni'mah from Allah, because the outcome is going to be what is best for you. And sometimes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. This is the way the bala or the distress or the difficulty get prolonged, because your dua is a beautiful thing. Now you're in state of ibadah to Allah. You're in state of closeness to Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He loves to hear your dua, then mashallah, this is the continuity of this goodness and devotion, that even if the bala is prolonged, as one of the early generations of Islam, he said that he would have a difficulty afflicts him, then he makes dua. He makes dua. And then he gets the ladha and the sweetness of the dua that made him forget the calamity that he's in. And he would wish that this state can be increased and prolonged for him. Not that he asked for bala, but it's because of the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a result of the dua. He said, وَقَدْ نَجَّكُمَّ بِدُعَائِكُمَا عَنِ الْكَثِيرِ. And the fact that you're making dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved you from many of the evil things. وَصَرَفَ بِهِ عَنْكُمَا مِنَ الْبَلَاءِ الْكَبِيرِ. And pushed away from al-bala, from you, the major ones. وَإِذَا أَنْعَمَ عَلَيْكُمَا رَبُّكُمَا بِنِعْمَةٍ. So ad-du'a. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Lord, bestowed upon you a favor, فَتَلَقَّيَاهَا بِالْإِكْرَامِ لَهُ. Receive this favor by honoring it. Any favor from Allah, food, drink, materialistic things, matters of deen, honor it. وَالشُّكْرِ عَلَيْهَا. To be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. وَالْمُسَامَحَةِ فِيهَا. And to be at ease, and to be at ease and generosity when it comes to others. وَجْعَلَهَا عَوْنًا عَلَى طَاعَتِهِ. And make it a mean to be helped, to be obedient to Allah. وَسَبَبًا إِلَى عِبَادَتِهِ. And a mean to worship Allah. That's why really a believer doesn't have time to waste. The favors of Allah are endless with every breath we take. So to be grateful to Allah, to use it in the obedience of Allah. And as it said, الْعَبْدُ لَا يَعْصِي رَبَّهُ إِلَّا بِنِعْمَةٍ. Right? When we commit a sin by a favor of Allah. The fact that Allah gave us the ability to breathe, and we use that to commit sins. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So therefore, honor anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon you. The opposite, وَالْحَذَرَ الْحَذَرَ مِنْ أَن تُهِينَ نِعْمَةَ رَبِّكُمَا. Be warned, repeating it, ta'keed here, to make sure that you're away from إهانة النعمة, and that is dishonoring a favor of your Lord upon you. Allah bestowed something upon you, and then you would dishonor it. فَتَتْرُكُكُمَا مَذْمُومَيْنِ. The ni'mah would leave you. If you want the ni'mah, the favor to stay, قَيْدُ النِّعْمَةِ الشُّكْرِ. To tie it is with being grateful. If you're not grateful, it flies away from you. So it would leave you مذمومين, condemned. وتزول عنكما ممقوتين. And it relieves you ممقوتين من المقت, from شدة الغضب, receiving the anger of Allah. And he says, روي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال يا عائشة أحسني جوار نعم الله تعالى فإنها قلما زالت عن قوم فعادت إليهم. O Aisha, أحسني, be good and treat the jiwar ni'am, the closeness, the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the bounties of Allah well. فإنها قلما زالت, that it rarely that it removes from people, فعادت إليهم, that it comes back. Even the hadith is weak, but as the ulama they say, there's other narrations that shows that this is one of the ways of Allah. You have a great favor from Allah. You didn't honor it. If it goes, it rarely comes back. So when you have it, guard it and keep it with the shukr of it. For example, health, right? If you waste it, maybe it's not going to come back again. Things like this. وَإِيَّاكُمَا أَن تُطْغِيَكُمَا النِّعْمَةِ. Be warned against being الطغيان, to be transgressed with the favors of Allah, فتقصر عن شكرها, so that you're not being grateful. أو تنسيا حقها, or you forget the rights of these favors with the ibadah, with the obedience of Allah. أو تظن أنكما نلتماها بسعيكما. These are all, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, these are everything here you would have evidence. This is part of the deen. Or you think that you attained this favor by your sa'i, by your earnings, by your effort. أو وصلتما إليها باجتهادكما, or it's because of your ijtihad and your effort you attain this. فتعود نقمة مؤذية. Then it becomes a niqmah, wrath from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you, harmful. وبلية عظيمة, and a great trial, like Qarun. And the like of that is Qarun, when he attributed things to himself. So this is with regards to the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the warning from being ungrateful and other things also. Then he says, وَعَلَيْكُمَا بِطَاعَةِ مَنْ وَاللَّهُ اللَّهُ أَمْرَكُمَا فِيمَا لَا مَعْصِيَةَ فِيهِ لِلَّهِ تَعَالَى. Be upon the obedience for those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them in authority over you, those who rule over you, in a matter that is it's not sinful. فِيمَا لَا مَعْصِيَةَ فِيهِ لِلَّهِ تَعَالَى. When there is no sin in disobeying Allah. فإن طاعته من أفضل ما تتمسكان به وتعتصمان به ممن عاداكما. طاعة those who have authority over us, from the best what you can hold fast to, and وتعتصمان به, to hold fast to it, ممن عاداكما, from those who opposes you, in matters of ma'ruf, not in matters of sins. And there are levels, of course, and usually when in the books of Aqidah these things are mentioned, it refers to the people of authority, the ruler. And we witness that also in the different smaller acts of authority. Your parents have authority over you, and then you have your people observe this authority when they go to work. If they're hired and they like their job and they're well paid, they respect the authority very well. So the same thing with anything that has authority, and those who have authority are al-umara wal-ulama, the people of authority and the ulama. They have authority over us, not authority with force, but this is with matters of deen. And that's why we have to listen, and not just in matters of clear halal and clear haram, in things that are not clear to us. In sins, of course, no ta'a la ta'ata li makhluqin fi ma'siyati al-khaliq. And if something that is not clear to us, contemporary issues, this and that, and we ask the people of knowledge and they say, stay away from, then we stay away from. Even if you, حتى وإن كنت كارها, even if you don't like it, even if you think it's not the best idea, it's not that they're telling you to do haram or to stay away from the fard. It's matters that are fitan and the like of this. So, but this is again here with the rulers. وَإِيَّاكُمَا وَالتَّعْرِيضَ لِلْخِلَافِ لَهُمْ. And be warned against rising, or ta'rid here of opposing them or rising against them. للتعريض الخلاف لهم, to oppose them. والقيام عليهم, and to revert against them, revolt against them. فإن هذا فيه العطب العاجل, it ruins your immediate life. والخزي الآجل, and the disgrace that is awaiting for you. ولو ظفرتما في خلافكما ونفذتما فيما حاولتما. Even if you were ظفرت, الظفر is to attain what you were going after, and you executed what you are trying, لكان ذلك سبب هلاككما لما تكسبانه من المآثم. Even if you were successful, but what amount of sins that you would earn, will be means of your destruction. وتحدثان على الناس من الحوادث والعظائم. And what you introduce to the people from al-hawadith and the consequences and the major things. Bloodshed. It's enough that you become part of shedding bloods of people because of your ignorant actions, revolting against rulers and doing all these types of evil things. And al-khuruj ala al-hakim is not physically only. It's with words of mouth too. And that's why to stay away from this and to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ثم من سعيتما له ووثقتما به لا يقدم شيئا على إهلاككما والراحة منكما. And the one that you سعيتما له, that you supported, you walked and you act for them, ووثقتما به, and you were entrusted, لا يقدم شيئا على إهلاككما والراحة منكما. You helped someone to revolt against someone, he will turn against you sometime. I mean, the matter doesn't end. فإنه لا يأمن أن تحدث عليه. Why? Because he sees that you helped him to revolt against someone else. He knows that he's not safe from you because you might do the same thing to him also. It's not a matter of deen to you, it's a matter of benefits and losses. وتنهضان بغيري كما نهضتما به. And you would rise against them as you did to the ones before. And if you look at history, the matter is like this. This is how it works. And that's why it never ends. And they become foolish enough to believe that those who they help, they will be with them. And after they get power, the first ones that they would have enmity to is the one that helped them, so that they don't do the same thing to them. And the matter, people would never learn, and they would keep on repeating the matter over and over again. And the way to protect oneself from this, the people who Ahl Sunnah are not, when they do this, is not based on history, is not based on al-masalih wal-mafasid only, benefits and losses, and it's based on nusus. If we have a nas, if we have a text, if we have a wahy, says do not do it ma aqamu fikum as-salah, as long as they establish the salah among you, we say sami'na wa ata'na. And no, of course, ma'siyah here, we're saying to obey in sins or to be hypocrites or anything, but to stay away from these things that we are forbidden to do. فالتزم الطاعة وملازمة الجماعة. Be upon the obedience to those who have authority over you. وملازمة الجماعة, جماعة المسلمين. Do not be against them. فإن السلطان الجائر الظالم أرفق بالناس من الفتنة وانطلاق الأيدي والألسن. And this is part of the statements where if a person understands it well, he would see what is being forbidden here. The unjust, the oppressive ruler, the wrongdoing, the oppressive one, is more gentle to the people than the fitna, than the tribulations, وانطلاق الأيدي والألسن, when the hands are unleashed. Hands and tongues, when it's chaos. Which is more gentle to the people? To have an unjust and oppressive ruler, or to the matter to be left to the individuals to shed blood and to have chaos and so on? Of course, it doesn't mean that this is to say having an unjust ruler, it's a beautiful thing. No, but when you compare both, no, it's better to have, or of a lesser evil, and that's why stay upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded you. And this is a rule that never fails. He says, فَإِنْ رَابَكُمَا أَمْرٌ مِمَّنْ وُلِّيَ عَلَيْكُمَا أَوْ وَصَلَتْ مِنْهُ أَذِيَّةٌ إِلَيْكُمَا. Now, if it happened, رَابَكُمَا, الرِّبَا is doubt. A matter that for those who are in charge of you, or came from him harm to you directly. فَاصْبِرَا, be patient. وَانْقَبِضَا, انقبض, that means keep it to yourself, withdraw. وَتَحَيَّلَ لِصَرْفِ ذَلِكَ عَنْكُمَا, have means, try to find means to divert this harm away from you. بالاستنزال والاحتمال والإجمال. To الاستنزال is to go down in matters, to withdraw, to be patient. الإجمال, to have general meanings and endurance and good conduct. وإلا فخرج عن بلده, or otherwise leave his place, go to a different place, different country. إلى أن تصلح لكما جهته, till the matter is rectified and you can go back. وتعود إلى الإحسان إليكما نيته, until his intention is kind to you. This is to save yourself from your physical harm to afflict you, but this is, if this is the only way, then do that. And again, not to do the opposite. وَإِيَّاكُمَا وَكَثْرَةِ التَّظَلُّمِ مِنْهُ. And this is what many of us, we fall into this, and we have to be careful. وَإِيَّاكُمَا وَكَثْرَةِ التَّظَلُّمِ. Be warned against constantly complaining about rulers and about this, and constantly, every time you find group of people sitting together, this is their subject. And then after they sit for an hour, 2 hours, did we gain anything? Nothing. Nothing. The ummah did not change, and they maybe fell into some kind of sins and ghiba and waste and harshness, and nothing happened unaccomplished. So كثرة التظلم والتعرض لذكره, and keep on mentioning him, بقبيح يؤثر عنه, with something that is bad that is known about him. فإن ذلك لا يزيد إلا حنقا وبغضة فيكما. Of course, this is if it's done and it reaches him, then it increases his anger towards you. وَرِضًا بِإِضْرَارِهِ بِكُمَا, and he will be pleased to harm you. So you bring the harm to yourself, and again, it's not a call to be a coward, but it's again the deen of al-Islam that we need to follow with regards to this matter and to stay away from it. And as Al-Hasan al-Basri, when he said to the people when they were in the fitnat al-Ash'ath, he said something to them that you would hear people making jokes about this, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. But someone knows the nusus of the deen, especially when it's a Muslim over a Muslim. He says, the zalim, the oppressor, is عقوبة من الله عليكم, is a punishment from Allah on you. So do not push the uqubah of Allah with the sword, but push it with repentance, with dua. And this is how it's supposed to be observed. And he says, وَابْدَأْ بَعْدَ سَدِّ هَذِهِ الْأَبْوَابِ عَنْكُمَا بِتَرْكِ مُنَافَسَةٍ مَنْ نَافَسَكُمْ. To start after blocking these gates from you is to stay away from the competing with those who compete with you. وَمُطَالَبَةِ مَنْ طَالَبَكُمَا, and to pursue those who pursue from you, meaning in matters of rulings and politics and all of this. فإنه قد يبدأ بهذه المعاني من يعتقد أنه لا يتوصل منها إلى محظور. People can initiate these meanings, those who would think there's no harm, there's no sin that would come as a result of this. ولا يتشبث منها بمكروه, and he won't have a makruh if he leads himself to this path. ثم يفضي الأمر إلى ما لا يريده, then it leads to what you don't want it to lead to. ولا يعتمده من مخالفة الرئيس الذي يقهر من نواه, then it reaches where a person becomes in opposition to the ones that he would oppress, those who opposes him, ويغلب من غلبه وعدا, and they would defeat them. So it always starts with small things, and maybe deen is compromised, other things, and this is not the means of change. He says, وإن رأيتما أحدا قد خالف من ولي عليه أو قام على من أسند أمره إليه فلا ترضى فعله. If you see this happening, fitna, people are revolting against one another, do not be pleased with their actions. وانقبض من, stay away from all of this, stay away. وأغلق على أنفسكم الأبواب, close the doors on you. واقطع بينكم وبينه الأسباب, and sever the means between you and them. حتى تنجلي الفتنة, till the fitna is removed and goes away. وتنقضي المحنة, and the test passes away. And this is, again, it's, subhanAllah, the matter also never fails. And the people of knowledge, when at these times of fitna, they stay away, and people don't listen to them. And they would act based on their own desires, and then after that they regret, and they would say, we wish we listened to the words of the ulama when it comes to these fitna. Then after the subject, he says, وَإِيَّاكُمَا وَالِاسْتِكْثَارَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, be warned against seeking more and more of the dunya. This is the zuhd, with the heart. وَحُطَامِهَا, and al-hutam al-dunya is the things that everything materialistically, because it goes away. وعليكم بالتوسط فيها, have the moderate way in it. والكفاف الصالح الوافر منها, al-kafaf, the sufficiency that you would have, righteous, have abundance of it to keep you sustaining your life. فإن الجمع لها والاستكثار منها, when you keep on amassing and having more and more, مع ما فيه من الشغل بها, makes you very busy in this dunya. والشغب بالنظر فيها, الشغب is when a person is distracted always by looking into it to have more and more. يصرف وجوه الحسد إلى صاحبها, makes people have hasad more towards you. والطمع إلى جامعها, and increase the greed in oneself. والحنق على المنفرد بها, and makes also the person have resentment towards the one that only have it. This is how the dunya is. So to take from it what it means to establish the pleasure of Allah, and sometimes in some cases it becomes more benefiting to others, where a person, for example, he might hire more people, be means for more homes to be sustained. And that's one of the things, instead of a person to be a billionaire, it's okay to be a millionaire, by this, having, delegating things, hiring more people. It's okay that your profit will be a little bit less, but you would benefit others, things like this. And it's not a call for a person to turn completely away from matters of goodness. فالسلطان يتمنى أن يزل زلة يتسبب بها إلى أخذ ما عظم في نفسه من مال. The ruler hopes that أن يزل زلة, that he would slip in a way that he would take, when someone becomes super rich, then the people of authority, they want to take a share of this. So he's showing part of the harm that happens, and that's when someone reaches a certain level. وَالْفَاسِقُ مُرْصَدٌ لِخِيَانَتِهِ وَاقْتِيَالِهِ. And the fasiq, the evil one, is waiting for betrayal to get something of this wealth. وَالصَّالِحُ ذَامٌ لَهُ عَلَى اسْتِكْثَارِهِ مِنْهُ وَاحْتِفَالِهِ. And the righteous one, he condemns what he is upon, being just extreme in making more money and things like this. وَاحْتِفَالِهِ, to partying, meaning to like what he's doing. يَخَافُ عَلَيْهِ صَدِيقَهُ وَحَمِيمَهُ. His friend, his close one, he fears for him. يبغضه من أجل أخوه شقيقه. He would hate him because of it, his brother. إن منعه لم يعدم لائمة وإن بذله لم يجد راضيا. If he withhold, he would definitely find someone to blame him. لم يعدم, that means he would find someone. وإن بذله, and if he gives from his wealth, he would find no one is pleased, because someone else would want more. So again, from the extreme greed that people might have. ومن رزق منكما مالا فلا يجعل في الأصول إلا أقله فإن شغبها طويل. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for him wealth, do not make lots of wealth in al-usul, in the assets of what you have. فإن شغبها طويل, that means it distracts so much. وصاحبها ذليل, and the person becomes humiliated. وهي ليست بمال على الحقيقة. It's not money really, it's all assets that it's very difficult to maintain, and this can be different from one environment to the other. إن تغلب على الجهة عدو حال بينه وبينها. If an enemy comes, he's not able to get his assets. وإن احتاج إلى الانتقال عنها تركها أو ترك أكثرها. And if he has to leave, then he would leave it. And again, this is different from one place to the other. So what he's saying, instead of saving your money in things that doesn't change, doesn't move, it's better to keep on regenerating profits from your wealth and things like this, instead of having so much freezing your money. ومن احتاج منكما فليجمل في الطلب. Whoever is in need, any of you, he's talking about different stages that they might be. They might be rich, they might be poor. So if you need, فليجمل في الطلب. That means take it easy in seeking the provisions. Be at ease. فإنه لا يفوته ما قدر له. What Allah decreed for you, you're never going to miss it. And that's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that it's already been decreed. فاتقوا الله وأجملوا في الطلب. Fear Allah and don't be terrified. Make your heart content. Take the best of the means, but make your heart content. ولا يدرك ما لم يقدر له. And you would never attain what have not been decreed for you. وقد ذكر الله تعالى ما وعظ به العبد الصالح ابنه في مثل هذا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned what Luqman said to his son. يا بني إنها إن تكن مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير. My son, if it's even the weight of a mustard seed, it's in a rock or anywhere in the heavens or in the earth, Allah will bring it forth. Indeed, Allah is latifun khabir, subtle and aware. This is with regards to anything in this world, and also a benefit, as if he's referring to this, if it's your rizq in such a place, and this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for you, it will come to you against your will, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed it for you. وَاجْتَنِبَ صُحْبَةَ السُّلْطَانِ. Going back to the sultan again, turn away, stay away from being from the companions of the rulers. You see the balance here, that you don't revolt against them, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their guidance, never to revolt and never to say anything that would mean this, and to obey them in matters ma'ruf. And the other way, it's not that you go into the extreme and to be with them and things like this. No, stay away from this closeness to them. ما استطعتما, to the best of your ability. Sometimes it's impossible. وتحريا البعد منه ما أمكنكما, and do the best you can to stay away. فإن البعد منه أفضل من العز بالقرب منه. To be away is definitely better than the honor that you receive when you're close to him. Many of the Salaf, they would do that, and they would even sometimes punished as a result of that. فإن صاحب السلطان خائف لا يأمن, because the one that has authority, he's always fearful, he's never secure. Meaning خائف to you, that means you'll always be not secure when it comes to the relationship with him. Anytime he can be the opposite to you. وخائن لا يؤمن, betrayal, he can never be secure. ومسيء إن أحسن, if he is doing good, this has إساءة in it or bad. يخاف منه ويخاف بسببه, you fear of what comes from him, and that's why the means to it. ويتهمه الناس من أجله, and people will accuse you of all kinds of things because of that. Or you're benefiting, you're hypocrite, things like this. In قرب فتن, if he's close, this is fitna, because how difficult it is to say to what's wrong, it's wrong. You would fear for yourself, so you would make mudahana, you would compromise in your deen. وإن أبعد أحزن, and if he distance himself, that saddens them. يحسدك الصديق على رضاه إذا رضي, the friend will have envy to you if he is pleased with you. ويتبرأ منك ولدك والدك إذا سخط, if the ruler is angry with you, your parents and your sons will disloyal themselves from you. ويكثر لائموك إذا منع, and those who blame you will be so much if he withholds something from you. ويقل شاكروك إذا شبع, and those who are grateful will be so much less to you if he is full. فهذه حال السلامة معه ولا سبيل إلى السلامة ممن يأتي بعده. This is the way is to be safe, and no one is to come. When someone goes close, he's never safe. He's always harmed. So stay away from him. فإن امتحن, what if it happened and you're being tested and you have to be close to him? أحدكما بصحبته أو دعته إلى ذلك ضرورة, or a necessity. فليتقلل من المال والحال. So if you are in that state, have less money and less status, so that it does not become against you and a mean to make you compromise your deen. ولا يغتب عنده أحدا, and he should not make ghiba in front of the sultan to anyone. ولا يطالب عنده بشرا, and he would not ask for anyone with him, meaning do not ask favors and things like this. ولا يعصي له في المعروف أمرا, he should not disobey him in any ma'ruf. ولا يستنزله إلى معصية الله, he should not make you commit a sin or disobey Allah. فإنه يطلبه بمثلها ويصير عنده من أهلها, because he might make him according to the sin with him. So will demand you to do more, and will demand you to do, if you compromise once, he will make you to do the next one. ويصير عنده من أهلها, then he becomes from the people of sin. وإن حظي عنده بمثلها في الظاهر فإن نفسه تمقته في الباطن. And if he gets it, that means he will hate you, will despise him as a result of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, being in this companionship with matters of ma'ruf, if he has to, if he's forced. ولا يرغب أحدكما في أن يكون أرفع الناس درجة وأتمهم جاها وأعلاهم منزلة فإن تلك حال لا يسلم صاحبها ودرجة لا يثبت من احتلها. Here, he's advising his children, do you want to be the best of the people? No. Don't be having the zeal to be the best of all people. And وَأَتَمَّهُمْ جَاهًا, the most in their status and the highest of level, because you would always be a subject of harm. If you're number one, everybody looks at you, you're getting the attention from the good and the bad. And it's a level that you would never be always there, because number one has to go down sometimes. So what is the good thing to be in? وأسلم الطبقات الطبقة المتوسطة. The safest one is the middle level. لا تهتضم من دعة ولا ترمق من رفعة. If you're in the middle, if someone in da'a, in the lower level, he's not looking too much of hasad or envy to you. And if someone is above, he's not يعني, belittling you in an insignificant way. And you're overlooked, right? ومن عيب الدرجة العليا أن صاحبها لا يرجو المزيد. One of the deficiency of the highest level is that the person there, he doesn't have any more to seek. ولكنه يخاف النقص, and he fears the deficiency or less. والدرجة الوسطى, when you're in the middle, يرجو الازدياد, he hope for more. وبينها وبين المخاوف حجاب, and between it and what he fears, حجاب, concealment. So he's in the safe level. فاجعل بين أيديكما درجة يشتغل بها الحسود عنكما ويرجوها الصديق لكما. It's a very deep advice. He says, make between yourself and the level of the envious ones, make yourself a level, a daraja away from it, and a daraja or a level above where your close one and your loved one wants you to be in. So don't make yourself in a position that everybody looks at you. And this is, you get the perfect attention and be of a lesser level. So, instead of being number one, be number two. It's okay. The second level is still, you did great, mashallah. Plus, not in everything, of course, but this is, again, in general. يعني. He says, وَلَا يطلب أحدكما ولاية فإن طلبها شين وتركها لمن دعي إليها زين. We talked about الشين والزين. Do not seek wilaya. Do not seek place of authority. To stay away from being in a state of authority, because the authority is one person. So imagine everybody's competing for it. And it's not permissible if it's wilaya amma, if it's a position of being the ruler, for example, it's not permissible to compete for it. And the same thing for the imama of the salah, you don't seek that. But it's to be given. فإن طلبها, if a person wants it, this is shameful. And if he leaves it to the وتركها فإن طلبها شين وتركها لمن دعي إليها زين. This is with regards to the authority. Whoever leaves it when he's asked to do it, this is adorning himself. فمن امتحن بها منكما, if you're tested with it, فلتكن حاله في نفسه أرفع من أن تحدث فيها بأوا أو يبدي بها زهوا. That means if you had to be in such a position, make sure that you work on yourself. Which is that it doesn't cause you to have pride in yourself and doesn't make you have zahu, that you like yourself so much. وَلْيَعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْوِلَايَةَ لَا تَزِيدُ رِفْعًا. So to be in state of wilaya authority, it does not increase your honor. وَلَكِنَّا فِتْنَةٌ وَمِحْنَةٌ. It's fitna, a trial and a test. And that's why would a person put himself in such a position? وأنه معرض لأحد أمرين, and he's exposed to one of two things. إما أن يعزل فيعود إلى حالته, whether he is to be fired and to go back to his original status, أو يسيء استدامة ولايته, or he abuse the wilaya, the authority, and to make it longer. فيقبح ذكره, people will hate him. ويثقل وزره, and his sins will be more. وإن استوت عنده ولايته وعزله كان جديرا أن يستديم العمل فيبلغ الأمل. If it's the same to him, whether he is in place of authority or not, then he is the one that actions will continue to be for him and he would reach his hope. أو يعزل لإحسانه, or if he's removed because of his goodness, فلا يحط ذلك من مكانه, that does not take him to a lower level. And this is always the, تلك الدار الآخرة ونجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فساد. The believers, they don't seek this ulu and these high status of positions and ruling. And as we see the righteous ones, they all wanted to be pushed away from them, but it was given to them. The Khulafa al-Rashidin, for example, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, none of them sought to be the Khalifa. Pushed it away from themselves and it was given to them. And this is one of the things that the more you turn away from it, if a person is given to him, he's helped. But if he's seeking it, he is left to his own self, which ruins him. This is the least that he can get, is that he ruin himself. He says, وَأَقِلَّ مُمَازَحَةَ. And the same thing with competing to be of any authority. And there's no harm to say that. Masajid, for example. Someone wants to be the board, the leader of the masjid, and they would compete in elections and all of these things. In our small communities, this is evil. Stay away from this, right? But rather the people should have the one that they would see has religion or whatever knowledge, and that's the matter, that's the end of it. People come to the masajid to make salah, to learn the deen, to be busy with oneself, not to be busy with politics and elections. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, inshallah. وأقل ممازحة الإخوان وملابستهم. We're almost done, mashallah, alhamdulillah. But we skipped by being fast, but inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless it. Inshallah. I didn't skip anything, but things that saying less in it, inshallah. وأقل ممازحة الإخوان. The issue of joking and things like this. أقل, don't make too much of it. وملابستهم, and being always with them in an excessive way. والمتابعة في الاسترسال معهم, that you're always with them. Usually you have friends, so you hang out with them all the time. فإن الأعداء أكثر ممن هذه صفته. The enemies, they have أكثر ممن هذه صفته. They are more that those who have these types of characteristics. That means those who have the like of this, they're always together and they joke together. That means they're not going to be the best people towards you for the most part. If this is the norm, that means they can be your enemy. وقل من يعاديك ممن لا يعرفك ولا تعرفه. Which is يعني less of your enemies, those who they don't know you and you don't know them. Meaning, enmity comes when people sometimes they know each other too much. When the relationship is too much in foolish matters, this can harm more than benefit. And they become enemies to one another. Unless, of course, it's for the sake of Allah, like al-ukhuwa fillah, this is different. The brotherhood for the sake of Allah, for the sake of the deen. فهذا الذي يجب أن تمتثلاه وتلتزماه. So this is what you need to be upon, وتلتزماه ولا تتركاه لعرض ولا لوجه طمع فربما عرض وجه أمر يروق. So stay upon, adhere to what he's saying that I advised you, and don't leave it for materialistic thing or agreed. فربما عرض وجه أمر يروق. Maybe sometimes something that comes يروق, that you like it, فيستزل عن الحقائق بغير تحقيق. We have weakness, we have desires. So something that comes along that you desire. So you find yourself slipping away from the truth without diligently making sure that you are doing the right thing. وآخره يظهر من سوء العاقبة ما يوجب الندم حيث لا ينفع. And at the end he would see the outcome, the evil or the bad outcome, where the regret might not benefit. ويتمنى له التلافي فلا يمكن, and he would try to fix it and he would never be able to do it. So meaning that if there's any exception, you have to make sure that it's well established in tahqiq and making sure that it's the correct way, and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. Then at the end he says, فَإِن فَقَدْتُمَا وَصِيَّتِي هَذِهِ وَنَسِيتُمَا مَعْنَاهَا فَعَلَيْكُمَا بِمَا ذَكَرَ الله تعالى في وصية لقمان لابنه فإن فيها جماع الخير. If you lost my wasiyah, if you forgot the meanings of it, then be upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the wasiyat of Luqman to his son, because it has jima' al-khayr, the comprehensiveness of goodness. And he mentioned the ayat in Surah Luqman where we ought to study it, inshallah ta'ala, and to teach it to our families. Ya bunayya aqim as-salah. This is after forbidding him from shirk. Ya bunayya aqim as-salah wa'mur bil-ma'ruf wanha 'anil munkar. Enjoin what is good, forbid what is evil. Wasbir 'ala ma asabak. Be patient with what afflicts you. Inna dhalika min 'azmi al-umur. This is from the matters that needs to have strong determination. ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا. The man is with people. Do not تصعر خدك للناس. This is the arrogance when a person is turning, as the translation, do not turn your cheek in content towards people, and do not walk through the earth exultantly. فإن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. Even walking the walk of arrogance. واقصد في مشيك واغضض من صوتك إن أنكر الأصوات لصوت الحمير. That means have moderation in the way that you walk and lower your voice. And the worst of the voices are the voices of the donkeys. That means matters and arrogance, matters and etiquettes that needs to be observed. And of course has knowledge in it. And we should spend some time to learn it. But again, because of the time, he says, وَإِنِّي لَأُوصِيكُمَا, I give you the advice, وَأَعْلَمُ أَنِّي لَنْ أُغْنِيَ عَنْكُمَا مِنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا, and I know that I would not avail you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anything. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that judge. عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَيْهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ, I rely upon Allah and upon the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let the mutawakkilun, those who rely upon Allah, to rely upon Him. هو حسبنا ونعم الوكيل, and He suffices for us. ونعم الوكيل. He says, كملت الوصية المباركة. This is now, he says that it's been completed. والحمد لله رب العالمين, وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا محمد خاتم النبيين وإله الطيبين وآله الطيبين وصحابته المنتجبين وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. He says, وذلك, that's what he wrote, وذلك في يوم الخميس. He finished it on Thursday, السابع لشهر ذي الحجة, the 7th of ذي الحجة, مختتم عام 49 و700. The end of the year 749. No, 749. And by the way, he had two sons. One died, and the other one, Al-Qasim, he became, mashallah, as the ulama, they say, he applied the wasiyah of his father, and he was the mean for spreading the work of his father and the ilm, and helped in this matter, and he was one of the people of knowledge. Wallahu a'lam. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from what we heard, and to keep it, inshallah, since the book is there, and maybe we can revisit it with some of the topics in it, that we did not fulfill it in the right way or the way it ought to be. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us always benefit from what we hear, and to bring us always in matters of the Deen, the Quran, and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And it's also a call to get to know the biographies of these individuals, the people of knowledge. And wa sallallahu sallam wa ala Muhammadin wa ala sahbihi wa sallam. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Questions? Maybe one, and then we, after Isha, so we'll take one, inshallah. There's questions, mashallah. Allah make it easy. Is it a sin to overlook a younger child's sins because they are young, under 10? Or should we be firm and try to correct their mistakes with even things like carelessness with wudu or not having enough khushu' in the salah? This is not considered sins for them. They're not sinful. So we should not treat it as a sin. But al-khayru aada. Al-khayr aada. Al-khayr is a habit. So we need to get them used to what is good. That's why the time from their 7 till their 10, it's a way to train them to do what is good, so there's no rush. So not from the first instant you have to be firm. So you take it in a gradual way, and to teach them and to make sure that they practice, and especially the matters of obligations, and to make sure the environment is safe from haram, and to make them at ease with being away from haram because they're not used to it. But as mentioned here with the salah, to be patient, teach them what is right, and with kindness, with gentleness, never to punish them if they are less than 10 years old when it comes to these matters. You just be gentle in teaching them and making them, if it's, especially once they reach, again, 7, 8, they understand things, or this is the wudu is not valid like this, you have to cover the back of the foot. If it causes in some situation, you would see that this is too much or they're extremely tired, you can overlook, but not all the time, as the ulama they mentioned. The same thing with waking them up for the salah. We have to make sure that it's every day for Salatul Fajr till they get used to it. But in some situation, they're extremely, one time, every so long, every few months or something like this, not the norm. Something like this, maybe a person can overlook, but still, because they're still not the age of the purity yet. My older children, let's continue that after Salah, inshallah. So we'll continue after Salatul Isha, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا
So, and if the effect leads to the same way, the hearts get attached to these things. And as an advice to stay away from these things and to train oneself to listen to Quran, to be busy with matters of adhkar, and it's just a matter of time. Once a person gets used to it, it transforms the heart, and a person becomes in no need of these types of things. And دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك, stay from what is doubtful to what is not doubtful. And I'm not sure exactly what the specific things might be. Is it permissible to lie for a reason like telling stories for fun or as fiction? We have to be careful with lying, as we said, whether it's joking or being serious. And we can always use words to make sure that this is not a lie. If you say, imagine that this is, and then you talk, you're not lying, you say imagine. But to be careful with, even with children, when we say to them things that is not true and they have their imagination that this is the truth. If the child have his own imagination, leave them alone. Right? But it's different than you would impose something. So if a child says, this flies in the air, and sure, let him just say whatever he wants. But for you to say things that is not true, you can make it in the sense that this is imagined, that this is the case, if you have to say something like this. And to be careful also, so that the values of us as Muslims are not to be distorted, especially with those who would have corrupted and distorted ideology that would have these types of fictions. والعياذ بالله. طيب, it's can you clarify on false testimony? Is that from today? Is it the same as making a testimony about something someone saw, but they were not 100% sure of? Or like the example about the kids, they say something and you correct them by asking, did you see it yourself, or did someone tell you such and such thing happened? Shahadat al-zur for the adults, of course, this is one of the destructive of sins. To testify falsely against a judge or something like this, or to witness against someone, that a ruling or a judge will be established, or a person might fall into shaming someone as a result of false testimony. When it comes to raising children, in one of the statements of Ibrahim Zidan rahimahullah from the early generations of Islam, they used to reprimand their children for shahadat al-zur, their children, to raise them that they don't have false testimony against one another, which is common among children. And they would come to you because they want hukm here, who's to be punished, who's to be time out, whatever. He did this to me, or I saw him doing this. And you take the words of one and you make the hukm, okay, you're punished. This is injustice. This is not permissible. And not to think that these are kids, so what? For oneself. And the same thing when a child comes like this, you train them, you teach them that this is such a major thing. Have you seen it with your own eyes like you see the sun? Or someone said, or maybe, or you heard. So because there is difference between saying something and having shahada, that you're witnessing against someone. So that's why they used to make sure that the children, nothing of that would slip when it comes to children with one another. How far into our family does maintaining ties of kinship mean? As long as you get to know how to reach them, inshallah. So anything that is related through the father and through the mother, and the closer they are, the more rights they have, and their siblings, and so on. And if anything that can be maintained, mashallah, this is good. And with means of urf, the norm of the people of what is to be known as maintaining the ties of kinship, and just for the fact that they know that you are there for them if they need help, and to not to sever the relationship from your end. And as we heard, one of the basic concepts of akhlaq in the Deen of Islam, our akhlaq, our manners is not based on al-muqarada, or al-muawada, is not rewarding one another. If people are nice to me, I'm nice to them. This is every decent human being would do that, and that's part of the Deen, of course. But it's about the one that is severing the relationship, the one that is causing harm to you. How are you going to deal with that individual? And that's different from one person to the other, but the general rule is that you're worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that relationship. So yes, he needs to be addressed with to fear Allah, this and that, but you are not responsible for his actions, you're responsible for your action. Allah sent that individual to you to test you. whether you will be ignorant like him or whether you will be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in him. As they say, the believer, يَخَافُ اللَّهَ فِي النَّاسِ وَيَرْجُو اللَّهَ فِي النَّاسِ. He fears Allah when he deals with people. He hopes for the rewards from Allah when he deals with people. And we are limited to al-adl. This is the minimum requirement, justice. And al-afw wal-safh wal-fadl is no limits to it. So it's very spacious to pardon, to forgive, very spacious, very easy. But if you want to be just, if you want to take your right, sure, no one is to be blamed if he wants his right. But if it's the weight of a mustard seed of injustice that you would receive, that you would do as a result of seeking your right, you fall into the sin. So it's like al-mutaffifin. So if you want to, with your right, give extra. It doesn't have to be exactly what you deserve. You can be lenient and forgive some and let go for some things of that nature, so that a person does not fall himself into be an oppressor himself. Allah musta'an. Says, I have heard some lectures saying sisters will not see their brothers in Jannah, and brothers will not see their sisters even they are in Jannah. This is a valid belief. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all among the people of Jannah. If people enter Jannah, they would see, of course, their families and their brothers and sisters, and those who are of a lower level would join those who are of a higher level. And some of the questions that, so this is false, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And some of the questions with regards to Jannah and hellfire, this is ghaib, this is unseen. And the ghaib, we know it by the wahi, the Quran and the Sunnah. So never to make analogy, because, for example, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made in this life something called huzn, something called grief, something called ham, gham, distress, sadness, worries, these are creation of Allah. All of that will be removed in the Day of Judgment in Jannah from the believers. They don't have it. It does not exist. Ghayra, jealousy. It does not exist. As if someone, a creation of Allah that do not know these things. So there's no such a thing in Jannah, and that's why whoever enter Jannah, they are in the everlasting joy, and never to even ask about their joy in this, and never to be sad. Even if in one family, as we talked about families, and when he gave advice to his son that he wants them to be righteous. Why? So that the relationship is an everlasting one. Because if one of them is in the hellfire, that means they would never have a relationship forever. Death becomes really the end of it. So that's why the concern of the tarbiyah, that you want them to be connected after this life, for people, all of them to enter Jannah and to rejoin again. And when they depart from one another, they join again even in the barzakh. The arwah, the souls of the believers, they meet. And as the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the man that died and his soul is elevated, and it's a sound hadith. And they would ask him, the souls of the believers, what happened to Fulan, what happened to Fulan, because they are cut off from knowing what happens in this life. And he would not see someone that he used to know. He says, ما حصل لفلان أو كما قال, what happened to Fulan? He says, ذهب به إلى أمي الهاوية. They would say he was taken to Ummi al-Hawaya, that means he was thrown into the fire. So things are happening after this life. And therefore, if that happens, the people of Jannah, there is no sadness for them. Even if it's the most beloved to them, or wal-'adhu billah, in hellfire. So the concern is about the one that receives the punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is there a difference of opinion in regards of what is allowed with rulers, and that criticizing the sinful rulers is something that has happened by some of the great people of this ummah, like Sa'id ibn Jubair? First of all, Aqidah is to be taken from the Nusus, the Quran and the Sunnah. Incidents can have different interpretations. An incident might cause a person to make a certain ijtihad for that specific incident, and can be explained differently. That's why we don't take our Aqidah based on incident. Right? Haditha, hadathat, aw kada. And we think good of all other companions and the early generations of Islam. We have a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and as we talked about it, it's the rulers, if he is unjust, of course if he's just and a good Muslim ruler, mashallah, everybody's okay with that. If he's unjust and oppressor and a Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ commanded to obey him in ma'ruf, not in matters of sins, and warned when he was asked ﷺ, should we remove him? He says, لا ما أقاموا فيكم الصلاة. No, as long as they establish the salah among you. So this is wahi. Emotions is to be controlled by the wahy from Allah. And no one is to say that a Muslim doesn't have feelings of justice. This is not the case. And no one has more concern towards the deen more than others if they are righteous and so on. But it's the nusus, is the text. And definitely this is what it brings the best, because this is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, with matters of history and things that happened after the Prophet ﷺ, to be careful of how it's understood and interpreted. When I make dua to Allah, I find it hard to feel anything and find it hard to make desperate dua. I feel distracted in my heart. I know the meanings of the dua I make in Arabic, but still I cannot bring myself to cry or feel emotionally reliant to Allah. What is the cure to this disease? Or is there something that is preventing this connection with Allah I need to get rid of? First of all, if a person is guided, as we heard, to make dua, this is a blessing and a ni'mah from Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will goodness for someone if he is guided to make dua. And we all have diseases and issues, and that's why we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure our hearts from diseases, never to think of oneself that we're, mashallah, we're great. So therefore we have to constantly make istighfar, tawbah, and that's why when we make in dua, the first thing that we should start when we make dua after praising Allah, making salah on the Prophet ﷺ, ask Allah for forgiveness, because sins prevents all kinds of things. So sincerely repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from all sins. Choose the right times when the heart is not distracted, like the last third of the night, as we mentioned also earlier, to make this is the schedule of the day. Never to allow oneself to miss, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, in the midst of the night or the last part of the night, to pray 11 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah, 5 rak'ah, whatever, with the witr of course, but to have a share of ibadah and dua on a daily basis, especially in this last third of the night. In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Sahih Muslim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends in this worldly heavens and he says, هل من سائل فأعطيه هل من مستغفر فأغفر له. Is there anyone asking so that I would give him? Anyone seeking forgiveness so that I forgive him? So this is where it needs to be done. And the acceptance of the dua of different levels, whether you get what you asked for, or it's kept as a reward that the hereafter for the person, or equal harm is pushed away from the person, as the Prophet ﷺ said. And to learn the etiquettes and the fiqh of the dua also, and how to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And keep on, as he also mentioned, you make dua and say the opposite of what you asked happens to you. But you're still making dua, that's a ni'mah from Allah. That's a good sign. That means keep on making dua. And maybe this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the most wise. Musa alayhi salam, when he made dua against Fir'aun, and Musa, this is the Prophet of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his dua, and Harun, he said, قَدْ أُجِيبَتْ دَعْوَتُكُمَا فَاسْتَقِيمَ وَلَا تَتَّبِعَنِ سَبِيلَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Your dua has been accepted. It was said it was 40 years later. So that means what? That means they made dua and they quit? No, this is your job, is to be abd to Allah. The outcome, the end is definitely is what is best for you if you are making dua. And the end is not too far. The end is what? 50 years? 100 years? If a person dies, when a person is going to die? Either today or what, 100 years from now? No one would live after 100 years. Allah knows best after today. So the matter is very near. So therefore to keep on making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most generous, the most merciful subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't want to keep you long. Which aspects of tarbiyah are most critical to establish in early childhood and which can be developed later? Tarbiyah is not by lectures. So we're not going to raise our children by sit here, I'm going to give you some tarbiyah. And then you give them lectures. It doesn't work this way. It's our conduct, our actions, and to give these types of meanings to them, to teach them and to implement it and for them to see it and to keep on repeating it till it becomes the norm. Not that they would forget it in a matter of gentleness. And that's why it's the parents at home, it's the teachers, it's the environment, it's the people in the masjid. And that's why we have rights, and brothers should, and sisters with regards to the children when they come to the masjid. All of these children are all our children. So it's not the responsibility only of the parent, but the collectiveness of this. And to be kind and gentle and to remind them and things of that nature, and to think of how to make the tarbiyah in such a way. But early childhood is for us to prevent them from being in a bad environment, for them to see the good environment. As many of the early generations of Islam would say, they would see their father or their uncle standing at night making salah, adhkar in home, reciting Quran. The mother, when someone knocks on the door, she goes to the room. They watch these things. They're raised to see the modesty, the haya, the shyness, and of course matters of belief, without being difficult for them. If someone says to their kids, if you do such and such, then I'll punish you, while they have no intention of punishing them, but they just say that to warn them, will this be counted as a lie? The answer is yes. And plus you lose the trust, because the kids are very smart, mashallah. Once we say that and it doesn't happen, then they learn. Next time I know that I'm not going to be punished. So to be careful, before we say anything, and to make things attainable. And one of the things, may Allah forgive us, because we're weak, but if you want to ask your children to do something, don't ask them to do something when you know that they're not going to do it. Because you're raising someone to be aqli waliday. You're raising someone to be disobedient to their parents. So you're setting them up. So give them a very simple task, and when they do it, you praise them, so they get rewards because they were obedient to you. Right? And if they have 4 problems, take the major one and focus on the major one. Sometimes you overlook things, so that they get the biggest of them taken care of, and then you go to the next and so on. And the raising them with not just when they do something bad we punish them, but also when they do something good we reward them. And with, of course, the love and the caring. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of our children, inshallah. There's 4 or 5 questions. It's okay with everyone. What is the balance between gentleness and firmness in tarbiyah, and how can parents avoid leaning too far towards their either extremes? This is a very important one, of course, and that's why there's no compromise in the deen. If something is haram, there's no excuse for it. There's no such a thing as a child. So if it's haram, it's haram. And one of the great means of tarbiyah is that the child needs to feel that he gives up on it. He has no hope of it. If it's something haram, he sees that there is no way it's going to happen. You make him at peace. But when he has hope, he never stops. So certain things, these are the rules that never to be compromised, and then to be gradual and to be gentle in implementing even it with firmness. And then it goes back and forth, and the gentleness in everything else. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that ما كان الرفق في شيء إلا زانه وما نزع الرفق من شيء إلا شانه. The rifq, if it's in something, it adorns it. And if it's removed from something, it makes it not adorned, makes it ugly, makes it bad. You are in charge. So there's difference between this is what's going to be with a smile on your face and being gentle, but it's not going to happen. Versus that you have to scream and become agitated. And it doesn't have to be this way. But the message has to be across that there are limits and there are things to be done. May Allah make it easy. Is it permissible to play games that involve dice? The answer is no. It is not permissible to play games that have dice. Dice is mentioned in the hadith clearly. من لعب بالنرد شير فكأنما صبغ يده في دم خنزير. Whoever plays with the dice as if he put his hands in the blood of the pig. So it's haram, whether he's 2 years old or 80 years old. It's never to be allowed. And children, you think you're going to make it difficult for them? They don't know anything. You're the one that is raising them to like something or to hate something. So why, if you make them stay away from it, they won't be attached to it. And the same thing with anything that is haram. But I didn't complete the question. Maybe this is... I have been told that the Arabic word in the hadith is for backgammon, not dice. If it refers to dice, does that mean that all games of probability are not allowed, and are video games also included in the same prohibition as chess because of the waste of time? Anything that has probability, yes, based on you choose and you win based on what they call it, luck. This is something to avoid. The same thing as the concept of maisir, as gambling. So whether there is money or there's no money, cards, this is all to be forbidden and never even to have them as a chance to do it, because this is something that to stay away from it completely. And video games, we have to be warned against these things. These things are not innocent, and you know that very well. This is industry. And the evil things behind it, it's something that is well known. And that's why it's not as innocent as it used to be. So we have to be extremely careful with these things and never to ruin our children. Yes, sometimes it's difficult because everybody's doing it, but I wish we have collective of families that they would, get together to make sure that all of the children, they would agree, they would have certain rules with these matters, so that when the child, he wants something, well, he has aza, he has condolences, because he's not the only one. Also, his friends are the same way. Especially with these things that are, very destructive and addictive also along with time. And instead, we can invest in other things, physical activities and things of that nature. May Allah make it easy. As men, what daily steps can we adopt to provide tarbiyah for our wife and children in terms of schedule and practical steps we can take? Sharing hadith from Riyadh al-Salihin daily. MashaAllah, if we are able to have a daily, even if it's 5 minutes. When we give long lectures at home, they won't like us. But if it's 5 minutes daily, one ayah, something like this, if it's in a consistent manner, it brings so much blessings at home. And a person doesn't have to be a alim. And if a man comes to the masjid and he hears a benefit or a hadith or a verse, then don't we go home, sit here, I'm going to give you what I learned. But to choose the right time, and if it's chosen on a daily basis for a few minutes only, this can have, and it does have, a great effect by the will of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. Last question, inshallah. Are you able to cut ties with abusive family? There is a rule in the Sharia. Ad-darar yuzal. Harm is to be removed. There's no such a thing in the Deen is welcome the harm. Let the harm come in. And we would just be harmed and we'd be happy with the harm. There's no such a thing. The harm is to be removed. And you remove the harm, and of course, whatever the harm is, and at the same time, you have some level of relationship. So if the harm is, if you go to them during the night, they'll harm you. Then don't go during the night. You go during the day. If visiting them at home, that means this is going to be causing physical harm to you, then there's other ways to do it. But also at the same time, at least they know that from your end, you're not severing the relationship. A neighbor, for example, he breaks your window every day. If you're able to fix it every day, mashallah, is good. Right? And there's no harm in doing this. But if it's too much, you push the harm accordingly. But don't cause harm to him because he harmed you, meaning by transgressing the limits. And that's why al-jar al-su', the bad neighbor, the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in Allah from jar al-su'. Why? Because if it's just about you can retaliate against them, it becomes easy, but you have to endure patience first. So that's why to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings what is best. But abuse and harm and all of these things definitely is to be pushed away with means that are applicable and according to the deen of Allah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for each and every one of us. And with all of these means, these are all means, and it's means from the deen, mashallah. And the owner of all of these means is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why the ibadah and the dua and the devotion in our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and especially with dua al-walid mustajab, the dua of the parents is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So constantly to make dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. And as one of the early generations of Islam, when he said, in the meaning of which that oh Allah, I'm not able to raise my child, to raise him for me, we're taking the means, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you.